Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. I laugh because saying a writer on day 94 of the WGA strike, and also, I guess, performer on day 21, even though I'm not SAG, day 21 of the SAG strike, feels a little silly, but yeah. You know, it's I'm actually getting a little used to walking around Paramount or Netflix in the heat. It wasn't as destructive today as it has been before. So maybe it's also, it was only 88 today as opposed to 91. So maybe that was it. But enough about the strike. I want to talk about today's episode. This is a good one. This is Jad Fair. And if you don't know who Jad is, I'm going to read you his bio right and now. Originally from Coldwater, Michigan, musician and artist Jad Fair began playing music with his brother David in 1974 as the band Half Japanese. As an art rock group that charted its own path, Half Japanese soon began to be celebrated by tastemakers, and this led to their first record contract. Over the next 50 years, they released over 24 albums and EPs, and as a solo artist, Jad has a discography as numerous as the stars in the sky. He's collaborated with everyone from Thurston Moore to Daniel Johnston to Teenage Fan Club to Yo La Tengo. And that's just a sampling. And his latest album, Jump Into Love, just came out at the end of July on Fire Records. Highly recommended. Go out and get it, folks. Jad is a singular person, and I have to say, depending on how the conversation goes, sometimes I just have like a storehouse of usual questions I ask about people's parents and their childhoods. And I have to say, when I asked some of these questions to Jad, they almost did not make sense to him. I don't know. That's not really it. That's not the flavor of what I want, but it's just that it didn't. He is such a singular person that the questions almost didn't fit. And we went off in another direction. It was very interesting. He's not only a great artist, he's a cool person, and I hope you like this episode. And folks, if you do, if this is your first time listening to the show, and you're like, oh, I really like this, I want to check out some other episodes of the show. I've been doing it for 13 years, so there's a lot of episodes. Might be daunting. What I like to do here in the beginning is a little recommended if you like. If you like Jad, you know what? I do a lot of episodes with musicians because I tend to listen to a lot of music, what I write, so that's probably the most culture I consume. Does that make sense? I don't know. If you put a chart out, TV shows, comic books, who else do I talk to on the show? Authors, musicians have the most check marks under that category. Anyway, the point is, do a lot of interviews with musicians. How about this? Just lately. Zena Parkins, Carl Newman from the New Pornographers, Water From Your Eyes, Satomi Matsuzaki of Deer Hoof, A.V. Tear. That's just some recent episodes. So you know what? If you like this one with Jad, why not check those out? If you like those, why not subscribe to the show? Why not? What does it hurt you? Start to get belligerent. What else can I say? I'm on social media at Andy Beckerman on Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, although really that's where I just post absolute nonsense. So, I don't know, follow me on those places if you want. I guess TikTok, whatever, it doesn't matter. And coming up on the show, I gotta say, almost at 600, got a very good episode for 600, but I got another, what is this, 94, 95? I got a bunch of great episodes on the way there, including Teenage Fan Club. Speaking of Jad Fair, speaking of people Jad Fair has collaborated with, I have a really good talk with Teenage Fan Club coming up. Who else? Bush Tetris, wonderful no-wave band from New York from the late 70s, early 80s and on. Will Oldham, that was great. So stay tuned for those. But for now, let's talk to Jad. Are you down in Texas?
I am. I'm just outside of Austin.
Oh, how is that? Good, bad?
It's a good city. Yeah. I mean, this time of year it's insane hot. But other than that, it's nice.
Yeah. Is it getting worse with climate change, or have you not noticed much of a difference?
Well, last summer was just insane hot. And this, up until about a week ago, it was all right. But now it's over 100 each day.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, it is pretty hot.
How do you weather that? Are you just like blasting the air conditioner? Have you figured out other ways to adapt? I'm really curious about like what's, because I'm in California and I'm like, it's going to get really hot here soon. And I don't know how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have central air. So as long as the air conditioning's working, it's great. The problem is, when it gets so hot, everybody turns their electricity up full blast, and then you have a chance of overloading the system.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. That's what happened sometime. There was a giant heat wave here last summer, and we have cats and dogs, and so like we're like we can live through this. But if there's a brownout or something like that, we got to figure out how to keep these guys cold.
Oh yeah. Well, I have 2 dogs and 2 horses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a good bit to take care of.
Now, horses, because, dogs, cats, I can understand that. I mean, I love horses. My wife and I visited, there's an animal sanctuary farm a little bit north of Los Angeles that we visited a couple of weeks ago, and there's pigs and horses and donkeys and cows, and it's amazing to visit. But when you were younger, were horses something that you were interested in? Did you want to own horses? Did your family own horses in Michigan?
No, I didn't. But my wife, Patty, she rode horses very young, and just kept with it. And it's something that really means a lot to her.
Yeah. Does it mean something to you, or is it just like, oh, this is nice?
Well, I can't say I ride the horses, but I'm there always. Nice to be around.
When you were younger, was there any kind of animal that you did want to own when you were older, or like what was the pet situation when you were a kid?
Well, we always had a dog, so I'm very fond of dogs. In that, boy, I can't think of any time I didn't have a dog.
What do you do when you're on tour? Like when you were younger and on tour, did you have a dog at the same time?
Yeah, well, I would have a friend to watch it. Now when I go on tour, my wife stays home with the dog.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about Michigan a little bit, and I'm kind of curious about. So you were kind of a teenager in the 60s into the early 70s, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Did the 60s, in the way that I think of the 60s and the way that like history thinks of the 60s, did that show up in Michigan, or was it still kind of like a 1950s-esque area that you grew up in?
No, I think it very much was 60-ish, because with the Stooges and MC5, well, I mean, there were a lot of very progressive bands back then. Destroy All Monsters. Alice Cooper came out of Detroit, and Silver Apples, Question Mark and the Mysterians. Quite a few Michigan bands.
Right. Was that reaching you in Coldwater?
It was. I can't say those were popular bands, but they certainly were popular with me. So the Stooges' Funhouse was one of the first albums I ever bought. I bought it right when it first came out. And that's when I played just over and over and over again.
How did that actually get to you? Like, did you go to the record store and discover it? Did you see them at a show or something? Like, how does this information? I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so I kind of know what a pre-internet age is. But
yeah,
I had like older friends, or like my friend's older brother who was at college that like gave us albums.
Right. Well, my brother David is 2 years older than me, and he was really on top of things. He had, Captain Beefheart albums and MC5, Stooges, Velvet Underground, Log Coxell. So many bands that really were not popular in the small town I lived in, but it was good that my brother was aware of it.
Yeah.
And so we had it.
What was it about Beefheart, if you can remember, that excited you? Because that is I didn't encounter them until college, and it kind of started to blow my mind then. And I'm just like, what? I can't imagine if I encountered it as a teenager, what it would have been like. Do you remember like how it felt?
Well, Trump Mask Replica. Boy, I took to that immediately. It just it felt so correct to me. Unlike anything else I had heard, but it just it just had a great feel to it. And also Safe as Milk was one of the first records that I had.
Do you think you were like, when you were a kid, and I don't know if maybe you articulated it then, but like, were you like, was Coldwater a small town, I guess? First, I'll ask that.
Oh, very small. Yeah, very small.
Like, did you know everyone in town, or was it?
Well, no, I can't say that. No, but it was very tiny town, very small.
Were you searching for something that was different, or do you think you realized it once you started hearing this music that's what you were interested in?
Yeah, I knew what I liked, and I just stayed with it. Also, Howling Wolf was a big influence on me too.
What's that?
A blues singer, guitarist. Yeah.
Was there music your parents were interested in?
Well, my father was a big fan of Louis Armstrong, which I also was a fan of Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald and Duke Ellington.
So like big band jazz type stuff.
Oh yeah.
Were you when you started listening to like the Stooges or Captain Beefheart or anything like that, were you trying to push against your parents and differentiate yourself, or was it just that you were interested in, like, it sparked something in your head, and so you were like, oh, I'm gonna listen to these bands?
Well, my parents were always fine on anything we played. And actually, the only time my father disapproved of something was when I was playing Wildman Fisher, and he just didn't take to it. It just wasn't his cup of tea.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I know. Anytime I played anything that was like Nirvana or whatever I was playing when I was a kid, my parents were not anything that wasn't the Beatles, I guess, for my dad.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think, yeah, that was the one thing we could agree on. And then we had much different musical tastes. Like my parents played a lot of musicals, a lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber musical soundtracks, and Billy Joel and Barbra Streisand, I remember. And then there was one point of convergence, which seemed to be the Beatles, and then we diverged everywhere else.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think the reason I asked that was because I think I pushed against my parents in some way to like, I mean, I think the music that I listened to when I was younger appealed to me, and there was something about it that was exciting, but it was also kind of about me pushing against my parents to figure out who I was as a person. And I did a lot of that through music.
Huh. Yeah. I've never felt that way.
Did you say when you were younger, did you get along with your parents?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've always gotten along very well with them. They've been so supportive. And even when you think, I mean, half Japanese, when we were starting out, not playing any chords, not tuning the guitars, a lot of parents would think, you're going in the wrong direction. But no, they were always very supportive.
What did they do for a living? Like, what made I guess also what made them so supportive?
My father was an architect. My mother was a teacher. And I kind of think my mother probably would have preferred that I went into artwork, just because she thought I would make a better living with the art. And the art does come so natural to me. And, she was probably right. I probably would have made more money with the art. But it's good to have both, because I still do a lot of art and still do a lot of music.
Yeah. So you were also making non-musical things from an early age, too.
Oh, yeah.
Were you doing the cutouts at that point when you were a kid, or did that come later in life?
No, that came later. That came when I was out on tour with Half Japanese. I wanted to have something to do on the long trips in the van. And I found that anytime I would try to read, I would get headaches from, the small type.
Yeah.
And my hand was just unsteady for drawing, but I found that I could do paper cuttings, which, it doesn't sound all that safe to be using scissors in a car, but, it worked for me. I still have all 10 fingers.
But you had been making art before that. It wasn't just like a spontaneous thing, like I'm bored in the car. There was a history of you making visual art.
Doing drawings and some painting, but mostly drawings before that.
Did you get accolades for that? Did people recognize you in school as the artist, in quotes?
Well, I did win some in college. I won an award for drawing. Came in first place on, I forget what it was called, but it was a art contest, which was that was nice, because it was a lot of people entered in it, and to come in first place is was pleasing to me.
Yeah, for sure. Was it something that let you know that you were going in the right direction, or was it just like a nice thing that you got?
Well, it was good to have both art and music, because it's difficult to make a living off of music, and it's also difficult to make a living off of art. But to have a bit of income from both made a big difference to me.
So, going back to Coldwater, how did your parents end up there? Are they from Michigan originally?
Yeah, they both grew up in Coldwater.
Oh, okay. So that's their hometown.
That's correct, yes.
How far back does your family go in Michigan?
Oh, boy. I know my great-grandparents were based in Coldwater.
Oh, wow. So generations.
Yeah, before that, I couldn't tell you.
No, but I just was trying to get a picture, Do you start to get restless there? Like, knowing your family has lived there for so long, is there something that makes you want to leave? Did you want to stay in Coldwater ever? I mean, I know you moved when you were as a teenager. Your parents moved to Maryland, but
the main reason I moved from Michigan was I got tired of the winters. So it was not so much a cultural thing as it was just it gets cold in Michigan.
Yeah,
and a little bit of that goes a long ways with me.
Yeah. How was the move to Maryland? Because you were how old when you eventually moved there?
I was 18.
18.
Yeah.
Did you move on your own, or did your parents move?
Well, my parents moved there a couple of years prior to that, and no, I guess I would have been 19, because I would go visit them at Christmas time, and leaving Michigan where there'd be a lot of snow and it'd be cold, and then going to see them in Maryland where it would be about 20 degrees warmer. Really appealed to me. So
wait, who did you stay with when they moved to Maryland? You were still in school, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So who did you stay with in Michigan?
My brother David and I had rented a house together at Grand Valley State College.
Oh, wow. So you were kind of on your own as a teenager at some point.
Well, as a late teen.
Yeah, well.
I mean, 18 isn't that young to be on your own.
No, but like, what made them move to Maryland?
My father got a job with an architectural firm in Baltimore.
Okay. So they move, and then you finish school. So you stay with your brother, and you finish school.
Well, I didn't finish. I had enough of school, so I just stayed for about a year and a half, and then didn't stick with it.
Okay. Was it just that school didn't appeal to you? Was it that your ambitions didn't matter? Like, it didn't matter? Going to school didn't matter for the things you wanted to do in life? Or
well, I was taking art courses, and I kind of felt that my art was better than my teacher's art, which, looking back at it, probably I was correct about that. So you kind of think, what am I doing? So
yeah. Do you remember, like, okay, I just want to ask about this feeling a little bit. Do you remember like seeing their art and being like, their art's, this is garbage? Or do you just remember there being a kind of like, oh, I'm better than them, or like they don't, or I guess I'm trying to tease out, was it I'm just better than them, or was it, oh, I don't know if they have anything to teach me?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like, I'm better than them, like, mean spirited. It's just the acknowledgement that I'm good at what I do.
Okay. So you had a confidence very early on in your life about
yes,
the
very
things you
much
made.
so. Yeah, very much so.
That's amazing. So I'm kind of curious, did you always have that confidence, or was it something that you gained through making things, through the act of like creation?
No, I think I always had it. Always had it. Yeah.
Was that tough then? Because I have to imagine that, if you have a kind of self-awareness and a confidence in the things you want to do, and it's also a little bit off to the side of mainstream culture, that there might be friction between you and, like, say, your schoolmates or teachers or anyone else that would have been in town, maybe outside of your parents, because it seems like your parents were very supportive.
Well, I mean, with the especially with the music, I mean, with my artwork, pretty much almost everyone I come in contact with likes what I do with art. Music is a different thing, so a lot of people like the music, and a lot of people don't like it, which that's fine, but I just prefer to be around people that enjoy it.
Yeah, of course. I meant really though more like when you were growing up, did you have friends like outside of your brother and your parents? Were there people that you could be yourself with, or was it really like your family unit was your main kind of group?
No, I had quite a few friends, and I can't say we were doing things musical together, but I had friends that were very supportive.
Were they artistic folks too, or just like kind of regular Joes?
Well, some of them were artistic. Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to tease out is, what gives you the confidence to go off in the direction that you went in?
Well, I'd say, it just, I've always done just what comes natural to me. So many people, especially musicians, they start out wanting to sound like somebody else. And for my brother David and for me, we just wanted to sound like ourselves, which you would think, sounding like yourselves would be that's a simple enough thing, but it's difficult. It's very difficult for a lot of people.
I think it's really difficult for, I would say, most people. And that's what I think is so intriguing. I think a lot of people, I was just talking about this. We were at a friend's house on Sunday, and we're just talking about how many people, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing necessarily, but just a lot of people tend to just follow whatever it is that everyone else is doing. And what I'm trying to figure out is what made you someone who was just like, no, I'm going to do the thing I want to do? Because it's tough. I think there is a pressure to conform to whatever is happening around you, whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I do think that pressure exists. And I'm very curious about people who resist that pressure. I mean, let me just ask this then. Did you even feel a pressure to I don't know whatever music was going on, but like, I'm going to make music just like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what's happening in the early 1970s, whatever that kind of music was that was on the radio. Did you ever feel like, oh, maybe I should write this kind of music?
No, never felt that way at all. No, not in the slightest. What
was it then? What were the rewards, I guess, for making the music you wanted to make? Whether it was emotional or existential, what was it going on where you're like, yes, this is it. This feels good.
Early on with our first releases, I received letters from people that I really admired. I know John Peel from the Peel Session was a fan of our early music, which really was a great thing because, the John Peel show went out to a huge amount of people. And members of Yoga Tango wrote to me and kind of think. Jello Biafra was a big fan. Penn Jillette. A lot of people early on. Sonic Youth, they were very supportive. So, that's very flattering.
Yeah, of course. Was it also your relationship with your brother? Could you also form this kind of unit that resisted those kinds of pressures? I'm trying to come up with any thoughts that popped in my mind. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it really is just you had the confidence to pursue your own artistic vision.
Boy, I can't say I ever felt any big pressure. No.
So you were just kind of set up in a certain way early on in life where you're like, I don't care what other people want of me.
Yeah. I certainly prefer when people like it, but it doesn't bother me at all if they don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what made you, besides the art classes where you're like, I don't need, like, I'm better than these people, not in an arrogant way, but just like a kind of observational way. What else about school? Like, did you not care about going to college or anything like that? Was it really like, I know what I want to do and I'm going to make music and make art and I'm just going to follow that path? Or was there any other kind of ambition that you ever had?
I just did what felt correct to me at the time, which, financially was probably not the best thing, but, that's what I did. I remember in high school, I was taking a music course, and my music teacher said, before you break the rules, you have to learn the rules. And I thought, well, no, you don't. Just watch me. If it's my guitar, I'll play it any way I want to.
That's amazing. Was there anyone you looked up to where you're like, I kind of want to do what they're doing?
Well, Jonathan Richman. I was a huge fan of Modern Lovers. Lou Reed too. His songwriting was just so great.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I first discovered Jonathan Richman. I just heard his work before I heard the Modern Lovers on their own. So that first album, I heard his stuff, and I remember it being a revelation because there was something free in his work that was also very open and emotional. And I remember being very repressed in high school and I didn't really open up that much. And so when I heard Jonathan Richman, it was like kind of revelatory that you could be open and emotional in music in that way and kind of bare.
Well, when I first heard of the Modern Lovers, it was back in would have been 1974. There was an interview of Jonathan Richman in Andy Warhol's Interview magazine. And this was before I even heard Jonathan's music. And the interview just seemed so, he seemed so intelligent to me, and just, he was, things he was saying just made sense to me. So when I first saw the Modern Lovers album for sale, I purchased it through the mail, and it was one of my favorite albums. It still is.
Yeah. Do you remember anything that he said in that interview that particularly piqued your interest?
No, I can't. Boy. I mean, it was so many years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So you moved to Maryland, and is that where you and David start making music for real?
Well, we had been making music together in Michigan when we were going to college together. So that would have been late 1973 or early 74.
Was there a plan at all, or was it just we're going to move to where our parents are and just see what happens? Or was it like we're moving, we're going to start writing and making albums and go on tour, and we're going to be a rock band?
Well, it was more like, I want to get away from the snow. And so, I want to go someplace warm. And after I went someplace warm, I thought, well, yeah, I've always enjoyed playing drums. So when I first moved to Maryland, David was still living in California. He was in the Los Angeles area. And David lived there for close to a year, and I was in Maryland playing drums and playing saxophone a lot. And then later, David came and joined me.
Wait, when you say you were playing drums and saxophone, just like practicing and playing on your own, or do you mean like you in a combo with someone, like at a dinner club or something?
Well, just on my own. But I had a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I would record some things and then record some things on top of that.
So then when does it start to when does like half Japanese really start to be a thing?
Like 76 maybe. Yeah, around 76.
So you and your brother start, that's when you record your first album.
Yes, right.
And then what happens? Like
the first we started doing the recordings, and I sent recordings on to John Peel. John Peel started playing it on his station, and then a record company from London, Armageddon Records, contacted us and offered us a multi-album deal, which really was something, because here we were recording at home just on cassette tapes. I certainly didn't have any money to go into a regular studio. So just using Radio Shack microphones and a cassette recorder, and yet we got a record deal.
Are you working side jobs at this time? Like, what else are you doing in your life?
At that point, I was working at a daycare center. Well, I had a job at a shoe factory, but it's not very fun working in a shoe factory.
No, my grandfather worked in a shoe factory.
So, yeah, that didn't last very long.
Yeah. So, okay, shoe factory and then daycare. What were you doing at the daycare?
Anything I was asked to do. So
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was nice. It was working with young kids, and it was enjoyable.
Do you remember what your days were like then? Was it just work your job and then go home and make music with David? Were you doing anything else at the time?
That was pretty much it. I would work during the daytime and then come home and work on music through the night.
Did you sleep at all? That sounds like a lot.
I do sleep, but I don't know that I sleep as much as a human being would sleep. I get a lot done.
Okay, when you got this record contract, or even when John Peel, I guess, started playing your music, was there a sense of validation? Was there a sense of, okay, I'm doing the right thing? Or even if they hadn't, I know this is maybe a difficult question, but even if those things hadn't happened, would you have done the things you were going to do anyway?
Well, I think I probably would have still done it, yeah. But having it actually come out on vinyl, it seemed cool to me. Prior to that, it was all cassette tapes, which, is fine, but there's something about a 12-inch album that really has a nice, not just the sound, but just the look of it and the feel of it is great.
And just having someone who you look up to, having them either play your music or having a record label put out your album, I know from experience, it is very... It at least for me, it made me feel like, okay, I'm not just living in my head. Like the things that I make, I don't think are just good. Other people also think are good.
Right.
And it gave me at least when those things happen, when, I'm a TV writer now. So when I sell a TV show or something like that, I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. Other people like this thing that I've spent a year thinking about and writing, other people also think is good, and I'm not just living in my head.
Right. It's always so great to have people like what you do. When I started sending cassette tapes around to people, I sent one to Mo Tucker because I was such a huge fan of Velvet Underground, and Mo really liked what we were doing, and later started using Half Japanese as her backing band, which was a real kick.
Yeah. Let me talk a little bit more about this progression, because I'm just really interested in this. John Peel, you get this record deal, and then what happens in your life? Does your life change? Does anything happen inside? Is there a change inside your body, or is it just like, all right, great, we're just going to keep moving from here on?
After releasing a few albums, I had the opportunity of going on tour in Europe, and so that made that really made an impression on me, being able to travel to different countries. So that was one of the things that kind of moved me to keep at it, was being able to travel to Europe, and I've been to Japan and Australia, New Zealand, Iceland, so many different countries.
Yeah, that's incredible. I guess the thing that I'm really trying to figure out is that, at least in my opinion, the world is, what's a good way to say it? It's kind of, since the 70s, things have been getting, let's say, progressively dystopian. And to have a singular artistic vision and to follow that vision out, I think is a commendable thing, and something that a lot of people don't have the courage to do. And I guess I'm curious about what allowed you to have that courage to just follow your vision, as opposed to get distracted. You could have been like, well, I need to make money, so I'm just going to work at this daycare for the rest of my life, and maybe I'll make some music on the side, or maybe I will just, be a fan of music.
Right. Well, I knew there was not much future for me at the daycare center. It was a good job to have for a while, but there really isn't much in the way of a future for me there. So that was not a difficult thing to move away from. And as far as the music and the art goes, it seems like opportunities just find me, which is great. It's not like I'm out searching for different opportunities. It's just that they somehow have a way to know where I'm at and come to me.
Yeah. Well, this is my take on you, at least, is that when you are courageous and confident and have a singular artistic vision, it tends to attract those people. And so you are, as you just being yourself, like capital Y yourself, people are like, that's what attracts me to your music. That's what attracts me to your art. When I look at your art, like I see something I haven't seen before, or I hear something I haven't heard before.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. The I don't know what else to say about that, but I think people are attracted to that, and I'm always so grateful. And I've had the opportunity to work with so many great bands and musicians that I admire, and I'm certainly aware of that. That's something that a lot of people don't have in their lives, and I feel blessed.
Was there a point where you realized, oh, this is my life? I'm doing the thing I wanted to do?
Well, yeah. I don't know if there was a point. It just came so natural to me that I'm not even aware of it. It just, if it's always there, you just kind of take it for granted. I don't. Maybe that's not the right word. Take it for granted, but you're just. It feels so natural to me. I'm never without it.
Yeah. No, I think I understand. It's the totality of your life. You didn't have to kind of go in and out of being a creative person. Like you made your life being creative. And so it inhabits all the different parts. So I wonder if that's it, if that's the key, if, you were able to kind of wall yourself off from the dystopian parts of the world in some way.
Yeah. I just, I'm a very natural person. And just, I do whatever comes natural to me. And I think that's the main thing that makes me different from other people is I'm so self-assured.
Yeah. When you were younger, were there any disciplinary problems because of that? Because I remember I was like that, and then it got disciplined out of me, and I had to regain that later in life.
My parents pretty much let me do anything I wanted to do. And not just me, but my brothers and my sister, we could do almost anything, and they wouldn't disapprove of it, which is, I guess, is fine because we were good kids. That might not be a good a way of parenting if you have kids that are not good kids,
right?
But we were always I wouldn't say well behaved, but we are always kind to people.
Was that a religious thing? Were you raised religiously, or was it just no, that's a moral thing. We're just supposed to be kind to people?
It's more a moral thing. Yeah.
How did your parents teach you morality, or was it just something like natural that, we're just going to be kind to people, and that feels better to be kind to people than anything else?
Well, my parents were always kind to me, always kind to my brothers and my sister, and I can't say it's something they actively taught us, but we were aware of it, and it made its mark.
What was the progression from, all right, we have this record deal, we're making records, to this becoming the totality of your life, to making art and making music? Was it pretty quickly, like once you got that record deal, that was it, and this has been your life since then? Or were there like smaller moves in there?
Well, it's opportunities come in play, because I'll be offered a record deal, and so if you have a record deal, then it behooves you to make a record. Or if you have a exhibition coming up, then it's time to get busy and make artwork for it. So that's more of how it comes into play. Is I know things are coming up, and I work toward those goals.
So you had the record deal. So you're like, I have to make, what was it, 3 albums?
Yeah, for the first. Well, I mean, the first record deal, it was like a 3-album set plus 2 albums beyond that. So kind of, a 5-album deal.
So once that happened, then what was next in your life? Did you look around and be like, all right, there's something specific I want to do? Did someone just offer you another record deal at that point?
Yeah. After that, we were offered another record deal as half Japanese, and I was offered a record deal as a solo artist. So yeah, record deals just come like, it's like raindrops. It's like, here it is.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, like, was there a point where you're like, there's a specific thing? It's not just that the opportunities are offered to you, where you're like, no, there's a specific thing I have in my head and I want to do this thing, whatever that is, whether it's artistic, musical, anything. Was there a point where you had this kind of like existential moment, or has it always been just kind of like, because of the person you are, these opportunities just kept opening up to you?
Well, when I do collaborations with other people, that's something that I like. I did an album with a Teenage Fan Club,
right?
And so I, before the recording session, I spent a lot of time working on lyrics, getting prepared for the recording session, and the same way with other collaborations I've done with, I'm thinking Daniel Johnston. Mm. I've done several with Kramer, Yola Tango, quite a few different ones.
So during these early years in the 70s and then into the 80s, are you still in Maryland, or do you move somewhere else at that time?
Well, I moved to from Maryland to San Francisco. Lived there for about a year. From there, back to Maryland for about 2 years. And then New York for a couple of years. And then Baltimore, Maryland. And then from there to Texas.
Mm-hmm. When you're moving around from these years to years, is it just... is there something about those cities that you wanted to live in them? Was it the cost of living in those cities at the time? What made you move from these places?
Well, part of it was cost of living. When I was living in Baltimore, I actually was touring as much as I was living there. So I was able to stay there. My friend Jason Willett had a place, and so I would give him some money at times when I was there, but he was fine with me not paying rent at times when I'm not there, which was very nice of him, and because I was away from home as much as I was at home.
Did your parents see you and David play live?
A couple times, yeah. We played at my brother David's wedding. So they saw that, and they seemed to be fine with it. They didn't say anything negative. So.
We're right at the end of the show, and I just have like one last kind of question about your creative process. When you have an idea for lyrics or idea for a song or even a piece of visual art, how does that start inside of you?
Boy, usually it comes so fast. Just, it just, well, a couple years ago, I set a goal for myself to release 100 albums in a year's time. And I actually released 150 albums that year. And, when you think of, most of those albums would have 13 songs. And so it's 13 songs with lyrics. So, I have to move fast. Come on. Time is money. Come on. So it just words have a flow to me. They come very easy to me.
Was that always like that, or is it just something that you've developed as you've done this over the decades?
I think I've always had it. Yeah.
Even as a kid, you think ideas would just come to you, and then you would just do them, whatever it was.
Well, I think with songs, I try to have it kind of like that it would come as easy as talking. A lot of times when you're talking to somebody, I'm sure there is some type of thought process involved, but a lot of times it's not like you're really aware that there's a thought process. You're just talking, and I think that can be the same way with song lyrics. That I'm sure there is some thought process there, but even if there isn't, so what?
Yeah. No, maybe that should be the goal of everyone.
Yeah.
Creative, whatever you're doing, it should come as easily as talking.
Right.
Yeah, that's incredible. Jad, thanks for joining me today. This was such a delight to talk to you.
Well, thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, 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 bye.